Okay, and another interesting shootout. Two Windows 11 devices, although the Steamdeck comes with SteamOS and you have to put Windows 11 on it yourself. It's not difficult to do. It's one of the first things I did. I'm not a big gamer and I wanted to see what it was like as a Windows machine. And on the right, that's on the left, Steamdeck. On the right, we've got a Win3 device, which is designed for Windows. I think it came with Windows 10. It's about 3 years old now. I put Windows 11 on it. They're both running the latest version of Windows 11. I'll put the full specs below. The Win3 device, still respectable. It's an 11th gen i7 with 16 gig of RAM. And of course the Steamdeck has 16 gig of RAM as well. So it's going to be interesting. Now there's no GPU. The Win3 doesn't have a dedicated GPU. Of course the Steamdeck has its own built-in GPU. That won't be used by FL Studio because FL Studio doesn't use GPUs in its processing unless it's running specific plugins which do use GPUs, and that's not the case here, and they're fairly few and far between anyway. Anyway, without further ado, let's kick them off and see how we get on. The first reading I'll give you will be the Steamdeck on the left, and the second will be the Win3 on the right. So, off the starting blocks, we've got the Steamdeck running 21% of its processing power against the Win3 only having to use 17% of its processing power. So, off the blocks, the Win3 device doing better, but I think we'll have to wait a little bit further down the line till it speeds up before we know what the real scores on the doors are. Now, Steamdeck 24% of its processing power, and the Win3 still 17% of its processing power. We're getting towards the faster section of the track where there's a bit more going on and there's a bit more processing requirements as well. Still 24 versus 16 for the Win3, and as you hear the lull coming in now, that's followed by a ramping up of this track by 9 loops. It's one of the demo tracks in FL Studio, so you can run this performance test yourself and compare it against any of these videos which I post. And now we're looking at 32 versus 20. So the Win3 device has blasted ahead, I'd say, not having to use as much of its processing power as the Steamdeck. Not surprising, given the Steamdeck is not able to use its GPU at all. And let's be honest, an 11th gen i7 device and 16 gig of RAM for the Win3 is pretty respectable, and that's put against the AMD chip, I think, in the Steamdeck, also with 16 gig of RAM. And we're now looking at 29% for the Steamdeck versus 25% for the Win3 device, so not that much in it, but I've just seen the Steamdeck jump up to 50% and the Win3 device on 25%. The display on the Win3 is quite difficult to read actually because it is quite small, although it's very clear. Anyway, I think that's giving us enough of what we need, so I'll stop those. And yeah, both respectable machines. The Win3 device was more expensive in its day, came out I think before the Steamdeck, as I say, about 3 years ago. Still a very nice device to have. Very popular with gamers. It was designed as a gaming console, but of course it only has the inbuilt GPU on the i7 processor to play with. But nevertheless, it has so much power anyway, it does quite a respectable job as a gaming device. Smaller than the Steamdeck, definitely more pocketable, definitely usable for FL Studio. Screen about the same in terms of real estate on both devices. You can see that here now. And really, if you're on a train or a bus or a flight somewhere and you want to play with some of the tracks you're working on, it's all you need. And they're both powerful enough that when you bring them back and plug them into a main monitor, you can run the track on a monitor and get a little bit more idea about what's going on within FL Studio itself. You can't see on these displays, I haven't got the mixer set up. As soon as you put the mixer on this size of display, it starts to look very messy. and of course there's other windows as well you want to use. So really you do want an external device, but as I say, at a push, if you're traveling somewhere, two great devices to use and continue composing your music. Anyway, I'm starting to blabber as I do. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more performance videos like this, subscribe to my channel and they'll pop up with a notification. At least I think they will. I've never actually checked that, but I assume that's why everyone says that in their videos. Anyway, as I say, I'm starting to blabber, so let's call it a day. Thanks very much for your time. Hope you got something out of that. Cheerio.